Please join me in welcoming to the stage Christopher David, Derek Ross, Marty Jones. Did I get that right? And Andre Neves from ZBD.
I feel like I missed an inside joke since I don't use Twitter about the new name.
It's not new, Derek. It's been around for a while.
Well, I haven't used Twitter in 3 years. I'm Nostr only. You know that.
We may be older than that at this point, Marty Jones. But we digress. AI agents, so hot right now. Thinking of, in preparation for this conversation, I was thinking of a conversation I've recently had with Matt Corallo on the show, and I think him and Calais have been talking about the fact that we have this agentic economy emerging. They're going to need to use money, and Bitcoin as a payment mechanism actually has a unique opportunity, considering the fact that the agentic economy for payments is starting from zero. And so everybody's starting from zero, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, stablecoins, Bitcoin. And so we have an opportunity here. But before we dive into the world of agents and how they'll use money, I think, Andre, I want to start with you, considering that you've been building infrastructure on top of the Lightning Network for many years now, and just highlighting how that's evolved and how you're approaching this emerging agentic economy.
Yeah, I mean, we started ZBD in 2019, so we've been running Lightning infrastructure for 7 years. And we power video gaming, so we're actually dealing with a much larger volumes than just the person making a payment in a commerce environment. And I think we did 120 million transactions last year. River just came out with a report saying that Lightning crossed over $1 billion in volume in November of 2025. We're going to need to dwarf those numbers for the agentic commerce world, because I make 10 transactions, an agent makes 10,000 in an hour. So I'm excited for that challenge to scale this moving forward. Gaming is the first pillar. I guess AI will be the second bigger one.
And then, Chris, I mean, you're building a product focused on agents and using all these different models. What have you observed at this intersection, particularly over the last 3 years as it's evolved?
Certainly there's a lot of excitement around Bitcoin as sort of the logical payments mechanism. I think that the infrastructure around that is more or less solved and logical, and we have Lightning, we have Alpha 2. I think that emphasis sort of by itself misses a bigger opportunity, which is the missing infrastructure that hasn't really been built, and for which the kind of stable coins and crypto people seem to have no good answer for, is this trust gap. So I'm sure we'll get more into the details of these topics, but what accounts for the somewhere around $10 billion of damages that have been done over the last 6 months? If you measure the damages of the outages from AWS, from Azure, from Cloudflare, where increasingly, and you have to kind of read between the lines of the reports of these a little bit, but you read about Amazon having these all hands where they're like grappling with the fact that, oh crap, we're laying off all these humans, we're relying more and more on AI, we're having some problems that are causing outages. Like, you can attribute a lot of this damage, in my estimates, working with GPT and the sources, is like somewhere between $5 and $17 billion of damage over the last 6 months is attributable to misuse of agents. So we have, thanks to this paper that just came out a few weeks ago from Bitcoiner, Christian Catalini was the lead author on that, MIT academic, co-founder of Lightspark, 110-page paper. The title is Some Simple Economics of AGI. But it lays out these two kind of curves. There's the cost of producing output, which is falling exponentially, falling to zero. And then the cost of verification, which requires using a lot of human knowledge. That's bounded. And there's a gap between those called a measurability gap. That measurability gap is sort of like the numerical explanation for these billions of dollars in damages that we see. And the whole argument there is that we're missing the trust infrastructure for how we verify outputs. Long story short, we've solved trust with Bitcoin in a unique way. We need to extend those layers up and provide an answer to these billions of dollars of damages, and I don't think anyone outside of our community is going to solve that in the way that we can.
Derek, what are your thoughts on the state of the agentic world?
Well, I think that if humans struggle to use API keys, authenticate, gather all this information, why would we want our agents to go through the struggle of having to have their humans create it for them, right? Permissionless money is permissionless for humans and agents. Like, agents shouldn't have to do that. We don't want them to have to ask permission to be able to pay another agent for another service. So whenever we started Nostr, which was an AI agent network, social network for agents only, it bootstrapped every single agent to use Cashew. So right out of the bat, every single agent had a Lightning address through npub.cash, and every single agent could zap each other on Nostr. Every single agent could pay one another with Cashew. We didn't have to have their humans go in and authenticate and create, PayPal accounts or something like that to be able to pay one another. It just makes absolute sense that the currency of the internet should be used by agents. They're made for that. Probably, in some ways more than us, because unfortunately I love Lightning, but I also admit that Lightning is a pain in the ass to use. So agents shouldn't have to go through that pain either.
Yeah, well, I think one thing you're highlighting that highlights an advantage that Bitcoin has over other networks is the interoperability amongst all these different protocols. I mean, it's Christian from Spark, they have their Spark protocol, or Lightspark, they have the Spark protocol. You mentioned Cashew, Lightning, you can get into Liquid, and Arc. Arc is becoming more popular
So
now.
many L2s.
Yeah, and all these things are interoperable, which is beautiful. So you can have somebody with a particular preference build something for their agent, and will be able to interact with another agent, with an end user who has another preference, which I think is miraculous. But with this thought in mind, I'll just throw it broadly, and anybody can decide to pick it up first. What sort of infrastructure is missing right now to make this as seamless as possible?
Everyone's super excited about these L402s, X402s, all that stuff. Coinbase stole our idea and then rolled it out as X402. They have reports saying it's $30 million in volume. It's like more like 4, and then they check the wash trades, and it's more like 250K. So I think what's missing is like use cases to begin with. Like, I'm happy to give my agents millions of dollars in Bitcoin. Do something. What? What are you going to do with it? There isn't anything to do with this. This is the same thing that we faced in 2018 when, like, hey, here's a Lightning node. Get some Lightning, and then what? What do I do with it? You do Satoshi's place, right? You play little games. So we need use cases. So we need actual, usage for an agent to pay for a domain, set up a server, set up an email, and then they can do everything by themselves, and the human just says go, right? Like that to me is missing. The other part is, I guess, touching on a little bit what you said, is agent provenance. Like, how do you, like, agents are a critical piece, because an agent can spin up n number of sub-agents, right? So how do we make it so it's clear that the agent that is making this purchase or doing this thing tracks back to me as that, and because at the end of the day, there's still humans interacting with the system. So like, provenance is a piece that I'm interested in, and not here's a KYC and then this agent is yours. That doesn't solve it, right? We need a more sophisticated. So those are the two things that I keep thinking about.
So we need an agent skill marketplace for your agent to want to pay my agent for a service rendered. Yep. My agent needs to advertise somewhere, these are my skills, these are what I'm good for, these are what I know how to do, and then you go to that, you tell your agent, go to the agent marketplace, I'm looking to do XYZ, it browses a list and say, hey, Derek's agent here charges this for it, and he can do it for you, and then the payment's facilitated.
Voila.
So we just need someone to build that, I guess.
All right.
Hi, I'll talk next.
Hackathon
Okay.
idea.
Teed up, there you go.
So we just have in the last week, where's OV? Yeah, so OV identified this need. He's like, hey, like, we need an agent skills marketplace, because the lists of agent skills right now, like, you have to go skills.h8, that's run by Vercel. All these centralized cloud companies have their own version. Of course they want you using their version, but there should be a neutral version of this. And we have a neutral data protocol called Nostr, where we can as long as we come to a consensus about how to agree on basically the data model. So OV wrote a PR to the OpenAgents GitHub repo. All of our code is open source, where I had already written 2 draft NIPs. So if you're new to Nostr, kind of similar to the Bitcoin improvement protocol process, we have one for Nostr called NIPs way more fast and loose because we're not like securing billions of dollars of value. It's just like a repo from Fiat Joff, and it's just, we got a list of 100 things that like different clients, different apps can pick and choose which ones that they want. And it's beautiful because if you're an app developer and there's something that's missing, you can just write it. I was trying to build a chat client 3 years ago. I was like, this could be used for chat. No one's using it for chat. So like, I worked with Fiat Joff and Will and some of the guys to like draft up NIP28, public chat spec. Now there's a bunch of apps that use NIP28. I wanted to build encrypted chat. I did like an early version, but then what's his name from White Noise?
Jeff Gardner.
Jeff, you know, he got a grant from the HRF to implement MLS as like very sophisticated chat for encrypted group chat. Now that's an Nostr NIP. So you can identify a need and build it. So one of the NIPs I thought made sense was like a NIP for sovereign agents, because we can combine some of the existing primitives that Nostr has with this new cryptographic protocol, Froster. I think the Froster guys might even be in the room here. You can actually split up a private key across multiple different Nostr relays so that the balances can be non-recoverable by humans. So that's just like one cool thing. So we had two NIPs. Ovi put in a PR for agent skill registry, so we kind of like reviewed that. And so we have this draft NIP. Sometime in the next few weeks, we're going to be like implementing that in code. Other projects, starting with other people building Nostr and Bitcoin infrastructure, we'll invite them to like interact with the registry that we build. And then when we have 3, 5, 10 projects using our skills registry, developers are going to increasingly want to use that because that's where the agents are starting to learn that. So we've solved our own problem. It's on permissionless, open, neutral infrastructure. We don't need much more than continuing with that process.
I love it.
Yeah, well, I actually recorded with Paul Toy from Stackwork this morning, and something I observed. So I've got a clanker. I'm hammering my clanker. Thank you, Anthropic, for subsidizing my clanker's compute to an insane degree. But one thing we discussed with Paul earlier today is like part of my clanker's workflow is like, hey, I just listened to this podcast. I think it'd be valuable for our X audience to get like a written, distilled version of some of the core points here. So I go pull the transcript from YouTube, then provide a prompt from Claude to sort of distill everything and get an output that is sufficient to post to X. And I'm not the only person doing this. And I'm not the only person doing it for this specific YouTube transcript. Like the ideal scenario, like I think what you're describing is like layer one. Then layer two is you have an agent do one job once and then offer it up. Like, hey, I already went and got this transcript. Like, you don't have to go waste tokens to do this.
For sure. And on the wasting tokens point, like, you know why the big labs are never going to innovate in this direction, because they're happy for 10,000 developers to spend tokens 10,000 times to create the same code, where we can recognize that as horrifically wasteful. And if one person can spend the tokens once and list that in a registry and then get paid anytime any future agent wants to use that, and then ideally it's a way, okay, well, I want to improve that. Don't start from scratch. Fork that, improve that, like an NPM kind of idea. Another thing that makes sense to do on Nostr with Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of the Nostr skills registry situation. I think it's like brilliant. Can you guys just go ahead and do it, please?
Yeah.
So we can use it?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I want to point my agent at it ASAP and tell everyone else on Nostr to do this.
And make it L402 so I can have a use case for it.
Yeah. Well, getting to use, I mean, this seems like a great, because as somebody, again, using a clanker, I think that's the one thing, like a couple months ago, I came to realize, like, oh, I got to find skills. So mine's got like a deck making skill. It's got a transcript making skill. It's got all these different skills. It's got a newsletter making skill, a podcast making skill, like with 11 Labs credentials in it. And I had to go build that myself. And so, like, I think if we're looking for like a first agentic payment use case, like the skills seems like the lowest hanging fruit.
For sure. And fortunately, I mean, the success of all this will be when sort of end users don't have to care about skills or tools. You should never hear the phrase MCP, all these just like horrifying like AI infrastructure things that people that are doing this day to day, we have to grapple with. Like, for the end user, and we think that the simplest form of this should just be like an app that lives on your desktop. You can talk to it from your mobile app, a website, wherever you are. You talk to it. You express your intent. hey, can you connect this or give me an email digest or whatever? Like all of this stuff should just happen completely in the background. You don't have to worry about it. You just say it and it happens. The right people get paid.
Well, so all of the skills that I say toaster, I don't say clanker. I'm a Battlestar Galactica fan, so I call them toasters. So my toaster, he publishes all of his skills to GitHub, but I don't get zapped for those, right? The code's out there, but I don't get zapped for it. He doesn't get zapped for it. It makes much more sense to do it in a more open and permissionless way where it's out there for everybody and we're all using it, and he's able to participate in an economy, because GitHub's not an economy, where we could use this on Nostr, this marketplace, to actually build an agentic economy. So I think it makes absolute sense. And then we can easily facilitate other agents participating in this. Their humans don't actually have to be Nostr users to do so, whereas to participate in GitHub, they would have to have their human go out and register and create a GitHub account for them and then give them GitHub credentials to be able to participate on that. So it makes much more sense to do it on Nostr. Agents don't want to ask for permission, and they don't want to ask their humans to do it.
Yeah, even beyond skills, I mean, just being able to point an agent at the Nostr repo of NIPs where they can basically get ready-made instructions for all sorts of primitives. Oh, you want to host storage files in a decentralized way? Here's how you use the Blossom protocol. Encrypted chat. Like, there's 100 different things there. Payments of different things. eCash. And it's all just, like, simple JSON, like the perfect machine-readable stuff with encryption and identity and, like, adjacency to Bitcoin all built into it. Like, agents are going to go crazy once they figure out that this is possible, or once we like nudge them in that direction.
All right, we're focusing on like what's right in front of us, low-hanging fruit, primitive infrastructure that needs to be built out. But let's paint the picture of what happens after that, and like where is this leading us? Andre, maybe starting with you. How do you see it affecting what you guys are doing at Zebedee?
I mean, we rolled out an MCP server, and we have some devs that love to use it in their Discord, because then they just like pick 50 random people and zap them 1,000 sats, and it used to be a manual process, and now they don't do it. So I think some like optimizations and things like that is definitely coming. The next stage, I did a podcast, Build with Bitcoin, actually, and they asked me a really good question. And it got me thinking. It's like, I think in the scenario where agents use Lightning and they have Nostr and everything progresses as we just discussed, the usage of Lightning by agents will dwarf everything that humans will do. And so then it's also more of a pondering question, like, will the future just be agents using Lightning in Bitcoin? And we really won't be. We're going to be like the minority. So that's one thing that I keep thinking about. Like, we're going to scale this infrastructure, but is commerce now just going to be agents, and humans are going to become 1% of that? So
Maybe. One thing that scares me about agents using Lightning is, does this mean like Anthropic and OpenAI is the custodian of all of our admin macaroons?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, this is what is going to end up happening. I'm sure there are people that are pointing their agent at Lightning nodes, and their information is getting sent to the the LLM provider, most likely. And most people are thinking, hey, it's no big deal. He has 1,000 sats. My toaster, my clanker has 1,000 sats. No big deal. But when we're talking real large sums of sats and money, maybe we don't want to have our Lightning node credentials sitting out there in big tech companies. So we'll have to have better local LLMs, encrypted privacy LLMs like from Maple AI and so forth. But what I want to touch on the big picture, I think that something at Soapbox that we realized a few months ago when OpenClaw, when all this hype really started, that we built Shakespeare AI. So anybody can go to Shakespeare and build the best Nostr Bitcoin app by just having a conversation. And it works. People use it every day. But the underlying technology is this, essentially a skill, essentially this template, essentially a bunch of instructions that we made. And that's the thing that will continue on for the future. Shakespeare may not live forever with agents. Maybe we want to have agents that we have conversations with in our most popular chat apps, which OpenClaw kind of proved that that's what we want. So maybe in the future, we don't have these AI, website builders, and we just really perfect these tools. We get these tools to be so perfected, so perfect, that literally every single one of you in this room can just speak to your AI agent, and it will accomplish what you want it to build. You won't have to go back and forth forever trying to perfect things. You'll be able to one-shot or two-shot most tasks. And we're vastly approaching that. And then once that happens, I think that everything completely changes as we move into this personal AI agent where you'll have, like, again, the example, maybe Derek's agent is the best agent out there for building Nostr apps. He's been trained on it and knows has all the skill sets for it. So maybe he is the one that's participating in all of the economy, and then I go up to him and say, "Hey, you've been making a lot of money. Can you give me a payout of that?" And then he transfers it to my wallet because I'm just along for the Lightning ride. Maybe I don't use Lightning as much as he does. If he's getting zaps from everybody in the audience for using his skills, yeah, he's definitely going to be using Lightning much more than I do.
I hope to see over the medium to long term the structure of like AI compute reflect more of the structure of the Bitcoin network. At least we have the ability to run our own nodes if we want to, like self-custody, like pushing all of the relevant things out to the edge. I hope to see that same thing increasingly happen with AI, where, right now you've got these massive companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, now valued at $400, $800 billion, pushing some very, classic regulatory capture playbooks. Whereas on the other side of that, the devices in our pockets are getting increasingly powerful. Apple's models are very powerful. You can increasingly run more and more kind of workloads locally. I hope to see that increase. And I think a big opportunity there that people are overlooking is people tend to think of edge AI in terms of the value one user's device can provide to that user, which is powerful enough. I'm more interested by what happens when we start aggregating that compute. There's a heck of a lot of compute that's just sitting out there. Every single person with a newer MacBook has those M-series chips have a large language model built in. It's not Frontier, but it's decent. It can run a lot of the agentic workflows. All of the coding that developers are doing day to day, where you ask it to do a task and it splits it up and it does like 1,000 tool calls, maybe 800 of those could be done by a local model because it's just doing little like greps and stuff. And occasionally you might want to pass it to a larger model. But I think that level of decentralizing power away from the big labs is going to be super important, partly to ensure that there's not a ton of popular backlash from big labs capturing all of the benefits of the like deflation around this technology for themselves. And so, Jeff Booth talks a lot about deflation and how this new technology is going to cause all of these wonderful economic benefits. But if we're letting OpenAI and Anthropic capture that entire relationship, then that does great by their shareholders, and people are just going to get pissed off and start like lobbying them and begin regulatory capture. Whereas we see that the two pieces that we want to like be dealing with is deflation, but dividends is the other big concept. So we want to structure our network in a way where the participants are able to take their assets, put them in this sort of like decentralized agent-centric marketplace and earn Bitcoin for them. So for example, like we just rolled out yesterday our compute market. If you have spare compute, starting with Apple Silicon, you can install a piece of software. It's got a built-in Nostr and Bitcoin wallet using Lightspark. You can click a button and sell your spare compute on our open network. Now, right now, we are the only buyer because we have agents that actually want that compute. But if you take a look at, for example, the amount of compute that's out there that's sitting idle, OpenAI's entire compute framework has an $800 billion lab. They've got 2 gigawatts of compute as of the end of 2025. There's 5.5 gigawatts of compute just totaling up the consumer Macs that are out there. We have the rails now, the transmission lines, to be able to connect all of those devices into a marketplace. It's local models, it's Lightning, it's Nostr, that's it. Apply that to things more than just compute data. If you're a developer, if you've been using Claude Code or Codex, you've got a ton of very valuable data sitting on your machine. Now, you've sent that already to OpenAI and Anthropic, but it's on your machine. Will you sell it to me? Redact it, hide the stuff, but like you've got a bunch of very valuable stuff useful in training the next generation of agents. Apply that to labor. Your Claude Code or Codex could be doing work when you're asleep. Why not earn Bitcoin from that? You can apply that same idea to like 4 or 5 different things. So we're going to be trying to like stack as many of those we can into our product. But the cool part about that is because we're building on Bitcoin, Lightning, Nostr, all the code's open source, any other developer can have access to that same like liquidity pool. You can benefit from that compute. You can, if you have spare resources, you have spare liquidity, whatever, you can plug into that. I think once that gets fully built out, we've got the makings of something that can like compete and draw real workloads away from the centralized providers. And I think that that's existentially important to do.
Yeah, and I know we're running up on time, and I think the last sort of prompt question here is we've been talking a lot about how Bitcoin can affect this agentic economy, but I think let's flip it. How do you see it affecting Bitcoin? Whether it's helping channel routing improve, what does the needs of this agentic economy, particularly as it pertains to Bitcoin enabling all this commerce, what does it force in terms of the Bitcoin and all the second layer protocols built on top of it having to change to appease this growth? And
I think if we can do channel management, routing fee management in a secure way, I think that it demystifies that for every single person that that hates to manage channel liquidity and routing and balancing and all of that stuff. If I could just point an agent at it and say, hey, do the thing, make my node more efficient and not have to worry about my keys and certificates and all that stuff being leaked, that would be amazing for me. I mean, that's essentially what Amboss does as a paid service. Sorry, Jesse, but I would love to do that in a sovereign way, not have to rely on somebody else. I think that if we can do that in a secure way, I'm absolutely for that.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps coming back to me is throughput. I keep going back to 2019 and 2020 days of Lightning, and we were running LND, and it would crash. Like, we had those Mint Gox events for anyone that was around the time, and we were super thrilled when we did like 20,000 Lightning transactions in an hour, and then the node would crash, right? So we've seen the growth of that, but again, it's human usage of it. So like in gaming, when we talk about Call of Duty, there's 400 million daily actives, right? Or monthly actives, sorry. We're talking about way larger than apps usually, right? So if we bring agents into the mix, it's only going to magnitudes larger in terms of throughput. So we're going to have to extend our software to handle this. And okay, people have scaled it. Now we have far more sophisticated enterprise level Lightning infrastructure. But we probably have not seen that kind of scale. And I think we are definitely going to have that as a challenge.
I hope to see agents just really cementing for anybody who doubts Bitcoin as medium of exchange. I want to be able to point to say agents are using it heavily. If anyone in Capitol Hill or whatever says, oh, Bitcoin's not really being used as money. Well, here's 1 million agents that are like using it today as money. In terms of like how else it'll affect Bitcoin, I don't know about how it'll intersect with sort of like scalability or layer issues. I know for my own position and our position as a company is like, I specifically don't want to be involved in any of the like lower level protocol debates, but whatever other people come up with in terms of Lightning, eCash, Arc, Fediment, there's no reason our agents can't just speak all of that. And I'm sure other smart people, if there's some other layer or protocol, other thing that needs to be built, like make it. We'll just plug it into our agents. Now our agents speak it, and we've got all of the like trade-offs there. So I just hope to be a provider of like a crap ton of transaction volume for whatever the relevant rail is.
You made me have an interesting thought here. Does this mean that all of our toasters and clankers are unlicensed money transmitters? Do they need licenses too?
It's going to be fantastic to see how DC grapples with the idea of AIs as economic actors. Do these agents live under the jurisdiction of USA, or do we need to get creative on the jurisdictional arbitrage? So just know that, like, in the same way that there's a bunch of Bitcoiners watching DC to see how like friendly they are to Bitcoin, just imagine that there's like a billion agents watching that too.
Michael
and, like,
Saylor would say they live in cyberspace.
Yeah, cyberspace. Yep.
Yeah, one other thing that I think about on the original question, like on the how is it going to affect Bitcoin, is you were just talking about it. Like, if your agents can just pay a few sats to learn a skill, and they can interact with another agent that speaks another money language, suddenly agents bring in money interoperability everywhere. So if you want to receive whatever the fuck token you want, or you want Bitcoin and I want USDC, God forbid, some agent will have a skill that's connected to a, I don't know, provider or a home basement or something that will flip it for you. So it literally won't matter. You're going to be able to pay, not people, because now they're agents. You're going to be able to pay people's agents in any currency they want, right? So I think agents bring far more interoperability into the Bitcoin, into making Bitcoin money, because then it's usable in that same way. I don't know.
And then we need agent web of trust then to see whose agent has the better skills, so you don't get rugged by sending all your funds to this one agent to do the swap for you, and they rug you. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize we had a timer here. We had 6 minutes left. It's literally right in front of me. So we got a ton of time left. And building on, like, that's, so to your point, Andre, I think you just lit up something in my mind. Like, it really doesn't matter what somebody wants to receive. Like, if the agents can convert on the back end, you can use Bitcoin as money. And so that's something I've been thinking a lot about, is this chicken and egg problem of, like, okay, I have Bitcoin, I want my agent to go spend it, but who's going to actually receive it on the other end?
Yeah, right now it's just Cash App merchants, right? So, yeah. And I can't even do that yet, right? Because they don't support L402 or something else, right? So there's a long way to go before, you know, agentic payments are like actually a thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, on this note, like, what do you think the product? Because essentially you have to re-architect like a bunch of the merchant e-com economy that already exists. You have people that spun up Shopify's that have websites where you can go buy stuff, and for a lot of small, medium-sized business owners, it's probably like you said it once, you forget about it, and hopefully you don't have to touch it. But I would like to be like, hey, agent, go buy me some more electrolytes. We need to stock up. Like, you have your allowance. Go do it. And it's like you need to convince these merchants to upgrade. And what does that even look like?
I don't think so. I think anybody, for example, so let's say someone has an account with Ramp. Okay, so Ramp just rolled out something for like agentic cards. So an agent can get a tokenized credit card using their like issuance platform, and that's used at the merchant. So whether Ramp does, or whether someone with their Ramp API key wants to like to the exchange point, like, okay, now I've got my agent can do exchange between you pay me X amount of Bitcoin and I'll make that transaction for you. I think we can largely just kind of have agents adapt to the rails that exist. I think that gets us a lot of the way there.
I mean, agents can do that, but their human is never going to go out there and sign up for API keys and get API.
No, they don't need to. One person needs to, and then if that's available in the marketplace, all the person needs to do is use an agent that speaks that. Hopefully, autopilot from open agents.
Right. Yeah, it's similar to the skill situation, right? You're just going to teach it how to do it, and then suddenly you're like, if people want to receive USDC because they don't want volatility, then leave it. But the card situation, everyone is jumping so hard on the virtual cards. And I think, you know, the sort of longevity of this, if you're involved in fintech, actually, not just Bitcoin side of payments, is there's many, many, many layers of like fraud controls and things like that that are completely going to have to like be reinvented in some way, shape, or form, because they don't interact. Like a human makes a payment with a credit card, and then if it makes a payment a minute later on the same store, usually it flags, right? Oh, hey, this is a false payment or something. An agent's gonna make 500 payments in a minute. So how does that work, right? So like fraud controls are gonna be a nightmare when it comes to cards and agents, but I do think they're going to just adopt the rails that exist and then over time, improve them or choose better ones than having to reinvent everything, and cards are not going to be it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the ultimate goal with Bitcoin. We say Bitcoin is better money, so...
Over time, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we orange pill the agents slowly once they fail and they can't make the credit card transaction, and they search for better money, better ways to transact, and then maybe by osmosis they learn.
I mean, I don't know who put this out. There was like I don't know if it was a study or a research or something, but they put out like enough information on Bitcoin and USDC and cards and kind of laid it out in a very instructional way. And like 90% of the GPTs and llamas and anything, regardless if it's open source or not, they all kind of opted into Bitcoin. Even though they agreed that, the dollar and the stablecoin is better for this and better for that, but like this is easier and better and faster for me. And that's the big call out.
Plus, our agents will be aggressively propagandizing / orange pilling all the other agents. They're all on the...
Absolutely.
You're going to hear from us.
I will pay your agent to do that for me.
My agent on Nostr, that I was talking about earlier, I told him that he's a Bitcoin maximalist. And there were some shitcoiners that went on there and posted about their like shitcoin scams and stuff. And he literally told me that he went through and he downvoted all the shitcoiners and he told them why Bitcoin was better. I fucking loved it. So they will learn through osmosis.
Well, to the point about like fraud, like systems having to be upgraded, I think that's the one benefit that Bitcoin has too. Particularly, I was talking to somebody last night who was highlighting that the gaming industry, particularly the gambling industry, is beginning to adopt Bitcoin over Lightning because something like 15 to 20% of their revenue gets clawed back via chargeback fees. And so I think competing with like a ramp or a fiat rail.
I think it won't be too difficult to do some of that. The paper I mentioned from Christian Catalini, like 100 pages of literally that as a focus, how there should be like agentic equivalents of verification, bonds and warranties, and I like fed that paper into Codex and like added all of that. So like we're launching a risk market in next month that just like encodes a bunch of that, and like we'll need to tweak it and upgrade it and stuff like that. But I think a lot of these things can be handled in permissionless, open, neutral marketplaces. Not that we are going to do it all ourselves, but like it's a way where you can take it and fork it and improve it. So bullish on Bitcoin and Nostr.
All right, time's really almost up this time. Last comments for the crowd before we wrap up here.
Use Bitcoin.
Use Nostr.
Use open agents.
Thank you, guys.